Hey friends, it's me, Miss Terrell. Hope you're all enjoying. Sorry, I just ate dinner. Hope you're all enjoying your vacation. Today we are going to start looking at period five. This covers the years of 1848 through 1877, which, if any of you are in the know, would know that this is essentially before the Civil War, during the Civil War, um, the start of the Civil War, during the Civil War, and after, which we call Reconstruction. So quite a bit to cover, but also a lot of really interesting stuff. So essentially, this period is all about expansion, the idea of manifest destiny, which is something we will dissect, the growing issues of sectionalism. Again, we've already kind of talked about that a little bit here and there, so it's going to get even deeper into that, and eventually leading to the Civil War and Reconstruction, which is what comes after the war. Also, we'll be looking at slavery a little more closely and examining states' rights as they pertain to slavery. Your key concepts for period five, the U.S. became more concerned with the world as it pursued an expansionist foreign policy in the Western Hemisphere and emerged as the destination for many migrants from other countries. So if you remember, prior to this period, the United States had made a concerted effort to kind of just take care of itself internally and not worry about what was going on externally, especially in places like Europe, etc. But now they feel like they have succeeded and created a pretty great, stable country, and now they want to look towards expanding themselves as much as they could. Um, Intensified by expansion and deepening regional divisions, debates over slavery and other economic, cultural, and political issues essentially lead the nation into the Civil War. The Union victory, this is not spoiling anybody's, this is not a mystery, right? We know the Union wins the Civil War. So the Union victory in the Civil War and the contested Reconstruction of the South settled the issues of slavery and secession, but left unresolved many questions about the power of the federal government and, of course, of the citizens' rights. So we're going to start by talking about territorial and economic expansion. And as I typically do, like to start with a quote. Away, away with all these cobweb issues of the rights of discovery, exploration, settlement. The American claim is by the right of our manifest destiny to overspread and to possess the whole of the continent which Providence has given us for the development of the great experiment of liberty. And this was stated by John L. O'Sullivan in the Democratic Review in 1845. This concept of manifest destiny, which we're going to talk about, is the belief that it's our God given right to conquer, settle, essentially move west and beyond. So, pretty deep concept that is developed during this time period. And it really fires up a lot of people. John O'Sullivan was really the first to use the term manifest destiny. Once he wrote about it, supporters of territorial expansion spread the term across the land, looking to expand westward towards the Pacific and southward towards Mexico, Cuba, and Central America. You remember we talked about the Monroe Doctrine, so that's going to come in handy. Manifest destiny is defined essentially as the popular belief that the U.S. had the divine mission, so sent from God, the idea comes from God, the divine mission to extend its power and civilization across North America. So from sea, essentially from sea to shining sea. This reached a fever pitch in the 1840s, driven by some pretty popular isms, right? Nationalism, population increase, rapid economic development, technological advances, and reform ideas. So essentially, where our last period left off, when all of these things were becoming popular or coming to the limelight, we've had, the technological advances in the Industrial Revolution. We have a strong, stabilized government. We have really industrialized economic and positive economic development, reformed education, prison system, so on and so forth. So now that we have all these things, we're in a good place, and we're just going to continue to move forward. Some people did not rally behind this idea, but a lot more people did. First, we need to talk about a war with Mexico. The U.S. annexation of Texas quickly led to diplomatic trouble with Mexico, obviously. President Polk in 1845 sent John Slidell to the government in Mexico City. Polk wanted Slidell to, one, persuade Mexico to sell California and New Mexico territories to the U.S. He also wanted to settle the dispute that was a hot, heated dispute on the Mexico-Texas border. Essentially, this mission failed on both counts. The Mexican government refused to sell California and insisted that Texas' southern border was on the Nueces River. The U.S. believed that the border was further south, essentially on the Rio Grande. So we are going to this is essentially going to lead us into war. Polk was waiting on news from Mexico City. While he's waiting, he orders General Zachary Taylor to move his army towards the Rio Grande across the territory claimed by Mexico. On April 24th, 1846, a Mexican army crossed the Rio Grande and captured the American Army Patrol, killing 11 people. After this happens, Polk sends his war message to Congress. Many Southerners were dissatisfied with the territorial gains from the Mexican War. Specifically, they were looking to take over Cuba, believe it or not. In the Ostend Manifesto, Polk offered to buy Cuba from Spain for a $100 million, but Spain refused to sell it. Some Southern adventurers took matters into their own hands. They went to Cuba to try to take over, and essentially they were executed by Spanish firing squads. Whoops. Franklin Pierce later sends 3 American diplomats to Ostend, Belgium, where they secretly negotiated to buy Cuba from Spain. The Ostend Manifesto was leaked to the press in the U.S. and provoked anger from some members of Congress. They thought it was kind of sneaky and backhanded, and they didn't really stand by it in the beginning. The Walker expedition, William Walker tried to take Baja California from Mexico in 1853. He then took over Nicaragua in 1855. He was looking to develop a pro-slavery Central American empire, which essentially didn't work out well for him when a coalition of Central American countries invaded and essentially defeated him. He was later executed by Honduran authorities in 1860. In 1850, we see the development of the Clayton-Buller Treaty. Both America and Great Britain wanted to build a canal through Central America to prevent each other from seizing this opportunity on its own. Both Great Britain and the U.S. agreed to this treaty. Basically, they didn't want to cancel each other out. They didn't want to have to go to war or have like a big issue over this, but they knew that if just the U.S. did it, there would be problems with Britain using it, and if just Britain did it, there would be problems with the U.S. using it. So compromise, they come together with this treaty. Neither nation would attempt to take exclusive control of any future canal route to Central America. The Gadsden Purchase. Maybe you've heard of this before, but probably not. Essentially, President Pierce would not get Cuba, but he did succeed in adding a strip of land to the American Southwest for the purpose of establishing a railroad. In 1853, Mexico agreed to sell thousands of acres of semi-desert land to the U.S. for $10 million, which was a huge deal. And now this land makes up southern sections of what we call today New Mexico and Arizona. So now we're going to look at expanding our economy. In this era, this time period of Manifest Destiny, we're going to also see, aside from territorial expansion, but this is going to coincide with a period of remarkable economic growth from the times of 1840 to 1857. America is really going to get into its economic stride. Industrial technology. Okay, so it's going to spread rapidly to other states in the Northeast. They're going to produce sewing machines, ready-to-wear clothing, firearms, precision tools, iron products for railroads, etc. This is going to really change the economic system, the way people buy things and the way people make things. So now people did not have to just have raw materials. They were taking raw materials and making them into finished goods and selling those finished goods, which is really great. Railroads, railroads, otherwise known as the Iron Horse. Um, this soon emerges as America's largest industry. It required large amounts of capital and labor, and the US government often helped railroads by granting special loans to federal land. Foreign commerce, okay, so the growth of manufactured goods as well as agricultural products caused a large growth of exports as well as imports. Shipping firms encouraged trade and travel across the Atlantic because of a regular schedule. Whale oil used to light homes in America was actually causing a whaling boom. Improvements in design of ships, trips by sea were becoming quicker and safer. Steamships took the place of clipper ships because they had greater storage capacity, they were cheaper to run, and they followed a regular schedule. The federal government expanded U.S. trade by sending Matthew C. Perry to Japan, and Matthew C. Perry essentially forced the country to Japan to open its ports and trade with the U.S., which is something that they were happy to do at first, and then became really disillusioned and annoyed and very angry at America. And we'll talk about that later. Although all things that are great sometimes have a little dip, and we see this dip in 1857 as the Panic of 1857, when the economic boom ends and we start to see some financial panic. As with most financial panics, prices become a major issue, especially for Midwestern farmers. The prices drop sharply, and unemployment in cities increases. So the North and these industrialized parts of the country are going to be really affected by this, whereas in the South, they're going to have less of an effect because cotton prices continue to remain strong. All right, actually, we'll stop here for our first period 5 PowerPoints. And when you come back next time, we'll start talking about the Union and the troubles the Union was having. And we'll start to talk more about sectionalism. So stay tuned. Adios, amigos.